going on, Jerome's? So one of the main storylines for the Vikings versus Falcons game on Sunday was the return of Kirk Cousins to the, well, I was going to say friendly confines, but a little bit unfriendly. Kirk got booed. Boo. 6 years, cashed a huge paycheck, one playoff win, sort of is what it is. But the Vikings moving on with slinging Sammy Darnold, a.k.a. America's quarterback, as well as J.J. McCarthy. Kurt, took the money and ran. Oh, by the way, so the U.S. Bank Stadium apparently was doing a thing where fans were allowed to pick the timeout music. So they picked The Devil Went Down to Georgia and Since You've Been Gone by Kelly Clarkson and Steve Miller Band, Take the Money and Run. It's really, really funny, man. I love the Minnesota pettiness and passive aggressiveness. That's what we do. But, of course, Kurt and Kevin O'Connell, they had a good 2 years together. Frankly, 13-4, wants to more win the division in 2022. Frankly, would have won the division in 2023 if Kurt didn't pop his Achilles, but is what it is, right? And now, I feel like, so first off, Kirk Cousins, like, His OC, Zach Robinson, is up in the booth, so he's got no one on the sideline. And do you think that Kurt, during the beatdown on Sunday, looked across the way as just like, oh, it's like seeing your ex with someone new, a ginger, spicy ginger, by the way. All right. And yes, since the Vikings beat down the Falcons 42-21, Darnold chains is now in effect, but stats-wise, 1-to-1, it just wasn't a comparison. Like, Darnold broke records in terms of quarterback rating, franchise record, 157.9, 5 touchdowns, and was just balling out all day. Now, Cousins, did throw for a lot of yards, and some of the yards weren't in garbage time. Yeah, a couple moonshots to Darnell Mooney, but didn't get in the end zone for the 4th straight game, which Falcons fans just have to be ecstatic about. 2 interceptions, should have been 3, but Shaq Griffin got shafted by the refs. It sort of is what it is. And also a 70.1 quarterback rating, which is not good. It's no bueno, right? Long story longer. So ESPN, the worldwide bleeder of viewers and readers, they're usually wrong about the Vikings, but they were absolutely 100% correcto in this one. So Dan Graziano, judging biggest overreactions for NFL Week 14 games. And he opened with a preamble about the Vikings-Falcons game. Cousins was determined not to overreact. The Falcons quarterback showed up around 9 a.m. Central Time at U.S. Bank Stadium, which had been his home for the previous 6 seasons. He got off, except on Tuesdays. Although, why would he be at the stadium on Tuesday? It doesn't matter. He got off one of Falcons' team's buses, went through security with the rest of his teammates, spoke with one of the security guards, and walked with his team. Oh, did he ask the security guard if he liked that? I don't know. I length the field to visitors' locker room. Cousins came out onto the field a short time later and went through his normal warm-up at his normal time. Boring, but we're getting into it. He and the Falcons came in on a 3-game losing streak during which they had seen their division lead fritter away, and now it gone. The game started fine for Atlanta as Cousins led a strong opening drive that culminated in a Tyler Algier touchdown run. I mean, after that first drive, I was thinking, here we go. This might not be good, especially that long 3rd down conversion where the blitz didn't get home and Mooney caught like a 28-yarder in Griffin's grill. It was just like, oh, boy. And overall, Cousins didn't play that poorly. So, Graziano obviously was there because he was going over through, pregame, he did this. He walked from the buses, and then he walked onto the field, and he said hi to somebody. I mean, come on. But Kurt did not play good. All right. Threw for a bunch of hollow yards, didn't get the win. Sounds familiar. Yeah. The Vikings defense is no small feat, but he did throw 2 interceptions, and for the 4th game in a row, he failed to throw a touchdown pass. The Falcons defense fell apart in a 42-21 loss that dropped Atlanta to 6-7 and into second place in the NFC South. Meanwhile, Cousins' old team that is now led by slinging Sammy Darnold, a.k.a. America's quarterback, who threw a whopping 5. Does anyone else just reflexively say America's quarterback when Darnold gets brought up in casual conversation? But I've read a couple of comments that does happen to people. That happens to me in my personal life now. What's interesting is that, obviously, this is a really fun side hustle, but it is really time and life consuming at times. So, my friends and family, when we're hanging out, we generally don't talk football because they're like, he probably doesn't want to talk about it, which is weird because isn't that what most people talk about in their free time? It doesn't matter. Threw a whopping 5 touchdown passes Sunday. Oh, he just undersold the one. Cousins didn't play that bad. Oh, Darnold threw 5 touchdowns, whatever. The Vikings are 11-2 and a game behind the first-place Lions in the outstanding NFC North division, and the Vikings are taking the North, and they're never giving it back. So while Cousins might not have wanted to make a big deal out of his return to Minnesota, we are definitely starting Week 14 overreactions where we judge a few potential takeaways as legitimate or irrational and go with it. So first, the Vikings made the right call moving on from Cousins. Spoiler, that is not an overreaction. That's 100% correct. Cousins didn't want to leave Minnesota. Baloney. Kurt has loyalty, but he has loyalty to whoever pays the most. And Vikings coach Kevin O'Connell didn't really want to lose him. He didn't, but also I don't think he wanted to exceed a certain price either. And Kwesi definitely did not. But it came down to the Vikings not wanting to guarantee as much money as the Falcons did to a 36-year-old quarterback coming off a major season-ending injury. And that shows up not just... So Cousins' arm is just gone, right? His velocity outside the numbers is not there. And if you put it side to side to Darnold, who is 27, going to be 28 next year, fully in his prime, like that's one of Darnold's best throws. Besides the deep shots, like that deep outside corner, in the honey hole of a cover 2, like he's got the arm, he's got the touch, it's everything. Cousins does not have that. Just doesn't have it right now. And you could say that it's dead arm, but a lot of it is him pushing off that right plant foot, which is surgically repaired. So Cousins went to Atlanta on a massive deal while the Vikings signed Darnold as a bridge quarterback and drafted J. McCarthy from Michigan in the first round. McCarthy suffered a season-ending knee injury in the preseason, which meant Darnold was going to have to be a season-long bridge. Well, he's going to start the year anyway. And frankly, if Darnold played the way that he has all season, minus the Jaguars game, he would still be starting if J.J. McCarthy was fully healthy and his backup quarterback too. He has responded with a brilliant season that has positioned Minnesota as one of the top teams in the league. Cousins, meanwhile, finds himself on a 4-game losing streak at the worst possible time of the season and looking over his shoulder and rookie Michael Penix Jr., whom the Falcons shockingly selected with the 8th pick in the draft just a few weeks after signing Cousins. We had made the analogy where it's like you get a divorce and then your ex moves on really quickly, but then they get cheated on like that. That's what happens, man. Over the past 4 games, Cousins has 0 touchdown throws and 8 interceptions. I don't know why that's funny. But remember, he did the dance after the Buccaneers overtime game, the whatever that was. But it's not an overreaction. That's absolutely correct. The Vikings were good to move on. It's not easy to cut ties with a player who has performed well and ingratiated himself into the team culture and surrounding community. I mean, yeah, that's fair. But also, there's did you know that Kurt's wife's from Georgia? The Vikings did because they knew they were going to have to think about the long-term future. Darnold, the 27-year-old reclamation project, who spent last season as a backup in San Francisco, appealed to O'Connell because of his talent and youth, and McCarthy was selected to be the long-term answer. Regardless of the way the season turned out, pivoting to the future was always the right way for the Vikings to go. Oh yeah. Hey, wait a minute. This is all revisionist hogwash, right? So everyone and their mom, all the analysts, all the experts, all the big money people were just like, the Vikings move on from Kurt and Danielle Hunter. And then they signed a bunch of jabroni free agents like John Grenard and Andrew Van Ginkel, who sounds like a Dutch impressionist painter, and Blake Cashman outside. How about that? And then they went with Sam Darnold. They're going to finish last in the division and last in the NFL. Please. And now they're just like, oh, we believed in you. Shut up. Shut your face. It just so happened that it had gone extremely well for Minnesota so far, and not so well for Atlanta. Good. There's still plenty of time for the Falcons to turn around. There isn't. Heck, these two teams could meet again in the playoffs. We will not. The Buccaneers are winning that division. And the Falcons could beat the Vikings there. They will not. Hey, let's just make up some more fictional scenarios, right? Hey, if I was 6'8", I would be playing stretch 4 in the NBA right now, even at 30 whatever. If Atlanta gets in, it'll be as a division champ. They will not, which means it could have a home game against a team that finishes 5 or 6 games better in the standings, whatever. But based on what we've seen, in this fictional scenario, the Falcons, even though they won't win, but actually the Buccaneers are going to host the Lions as the 4 or 5 game, and it's been glorious. Have a home game against the team, but based on what we've seen to this point, we have to say the Vikings made the right call here. Atlanta's not planning to bench Cousins for Penix. They should. Honestly, Penix just gripping and ripping it, and who cares if he mistakes and throws interceptions? At least you do have that upside of the arm talent, right? And mobility, by the way. The Falcons coaching staff has said it over and over again, and Coach Raheem Morris said it again after Sunday's game. If he sticks with Cousins, he might be a one and done. Yeah. But it seems pretty likely the Falcons are going to need an exit strategy for Cousins after the season, and they might not get what they imagine they would out of signing in the meantime. And you know what's insane? So Cousins' contract is fully guaranteed. His base salary is fully guaranteed, $27.5 million for 2025. So and also he has a no trade clause, so they can't just like dump him somewhere. They may have to like sit him. What up, Sylvie? Also, he has a $10 million rooster bonus that's due on the third day of the new league year. So, I mean, they basically have $40 million and a sizable cap hit just like tied up. They're just like fantastic. And comparison, black and white stats. Darnold has a better completion percentage, 68.4%. Has thrown for slightly fewer passing yards, but passing yards are the most incomplete stat, right? Because are you building a league because you have a dominant passing game, or are you getting garbage time, empty calorie passing yards because you're in catch-up mode, like down multiple scores and having zero chance of winning? Don't know. Has a higher yards per attempt, a much deeper ADOT, 9.3. That's number 3 in the NFL. Actually, number 3. 28 touchdowns to 17 for Kurt, 10 picks to 15 for Kurt, who had 2 on Sunday. No big deal. 108.1, the jam quarterback rating for Darnold compared to sub 90 for Kurt. PFF grade. Now this will change because I think Darnold is going to be going slightly up. But Darnold after week 13 action was 8th in the NFL, 83.2. Cousins was 23rd at 72.8. 11 hashtag QB wins for Darnold, 6 for Kurt, which is almost half as many. Yeah. And then, of course, average per season in terms of contract, 10 milli for Darnold, 45 for Kurt. So, it was the right move. And generally, we look down upon ESPN, but they're correct here. Right. So the Vikings were right to move on. I mean, Darnold, don't even want to say it's lightning in a bottle, but it's Darnold finally getting an opportunity that he deserves. Like, he always had this talent, and the Jets just did him dirty. Like, they never had good coaching. They never had weapons around him. You saw some flashes in Carolina, but then they traded McCaffrey and then eventually DJ Moore. And then his season with a backup, with the 49ers as a backup, I think paid huge dividends, right? Him being around a winning culture, getting good coaching, and just going from there. It's exactly why Daniel Jones joined up with the Vikings. Even if he's not going to play this year and he might leave in free agency, he's seeing that, right? And Darnold has played himself into a big payday, whether it's here or somewhere else. And Cousins making a lot of friends in Atlanta. Falcons fans are so pissed. And I feel really bad because they were definitely sold a bill of goods by ownership. And I don't know what's going to happen. Like, they should bench Kurt for the rest of the year for Penix. Just put it under the guys that he's injured. And then next year, I mean, if Penix plays well, he's the guy. And you might have a $40 million backup, which you're going to have to deal with. Because unless Kurt waives his no-trade clause, which the specter of being benched, maybe he does and just goes somewhere else. Like, I don't see this improving. I just really don't. But either way, it's good for the Vikings. And now we have just completely moved on. That's what we do. Anyways, that's it. ESPN says that the Vikings were right. We were correct to move on from Kirk Cousins to the Sam Darnold / JJ McCarthy era. Let us know your thoughts, our thoughts, their thoughts. Comment section. You guys know what to do. Skull, production value.